My number one value is connection. So when I heard Brene Brown talk about near enemy, I knew I had to do a podcast episode on it. In this episode, I am going to discuss the near enemy concept and how it is standing in the way of cultivating deeper connections. Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, Season 4, where we are focusing on mastery. The last 3 seasons, I gave you the information. Now we're focusing on integrating it into our lives and embodying it. If you are ready to master your thoughts, emotions, and patterns to feel whole, fulfilled, and really grounded in who you are without dimming your shine so you can live the abundant life that you truly desire, then you are in the right place. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? I have a deep topic today. Can we get a little deep? Okay, so you know I love Brene Brown. So I said Abraham Hicks, Teal Swan, Brene Brown, those are my peoples. So I am absolutely blown away by Brene Brown's most recent book, and she talks about a concept called near enemy. So in addition to the book, Atlas of the Heart, she also has an HBO Max special. It's basically a 5-episode series breaking down the concepts in her book, Atlas of the Heart. So if you haven't watched it, go check it out. If you don't have HBO Max, I didn't either, but just pay for a month so you can watch these episodes because they are life-changing. And she has this concept talking about near enemy. And when I really sat with this and marinated and integrated into my being, I'm just like, holy shit, this is deep. This is deep. And her whole book is about connection, cultivating deeper connections. And my number one value is connections, which is probably why I love her so much. But I believe that Brene Brown is really helping us, one, understand our emotions and feelings and our heavy emotions and how to communicate them to people in our lives, and also giving us language to express ourselves and even more words and emotions to describe how we are actually feeling. Because when we understand ourselves, like I say, on an intimate level, it makes it easier for us to communicate who we are to people to cultivate those deeper connections. So this concept of near enemies is actually something that is standing in the way of deep connection. And I feel like we live in a society where everyone wants deeper connections, but we're not achieving it. A lot of people feel very empty, very alone, very lonely, very disconnected, and not seen, not heard. So why, if everyone wants connection, why are we not connecting? And I think that this concept here is why. And that is why when I heard her say it, I'm like, ooh, I have got to talk about this on Abundance Hack. So here we are. Are you ready? Okay, so what exactly is near enemy? Because I'm going to be very honest, I never heard this term before I heard Brene Brown talk about it, but it actually is a Buddhist concept. So near enemies are emotions that are mistaken for positive virtues. So a far enemy is obvious. So you have hatred, you have anything malicious, just anything malicious, anything bad, it's obvious that it's bad. But the near enemies are hidden from us, or they're in disguise. So that makes it a little tricky. It makes it sneaky. So in Buddhist psychology, near enemies are emotions that are mistaken for positive virtues, and they closely resemble them, but they're not actually positive, and it causes disconnect. So 2 big examples of this is compassion versus pity. So pity is, oh, that poor person, or oh, poor you, basically saying, I feel sorry for you. So when someone feels sorry for you, they're seeing themselves as different from you. So that creates the disconnect. Now, compassion, on the other hand, recognizes the suffering of another as a reflection of their own pain. So if someone's just like, poor you, it's basically like, oh, that doesn't happen to people like me, you know? And so that doesn't feel good. And the way that I understand near enemy and why I feel like this is such a powerful concept is when you have a far enemy and someone says something really mean to you, you know that they said something mean to you and you know you're going to walk away feeling some type of way about the conversation. But a near enemy is a little more tricky. It's a little more sneaky because they didn't say anything wrong or bad, but you still walk away from that conversation feeling empty, feeling disconnected, feeling some type of way. But if you don't understand this concept or this hasn't been explained to you, you can't identify why. And this was like a massive light bulb in my head when I understood this concept and really sat with it, because there's been a lot of connections. And if you've been listening to me for a while, I share a lot of my shifts in my life about friendships and relationships and stuff that I've gone through as I continue to do this inner work. And there's been times where I felt some type of way about friendships or connections that I had in my life, but I couldn't pinpoint why it didn't feel good. And as you start doing stuff like sound healing, tapping, breath work, whatever type of healing modality that you're doing that's connecting you back to your body and connecting you back to your intuition, you can't ignore those feelings. And sometimes on the surface, we're like, well, they haven't actually done anything wrong. You know, I think they're a good person, but it doesn't feel good. I had so many of those moments and I'm just like, am I just tripping? And I used to ask myself that, am I tripping? Maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe I'm tripping. But I know that something about this doesn't feel good, and I couldn't put my finger on it. That's why I freaking love Brene Brown. And I'm going to just continue to say that because I feel like we have to give credit where credit is due. And so this concept is exactly why. So I gave you the example of compassion versus pity. So another example is joy versus comparison. And let me just tell you, I am feeling this one just on a whole other level these days. So the near enemy of shared joy is comparison and jealousy. Jealousy compares our joy to others. It separates us and believes that joy is limited. It's as if others have it, there will not be enough for us. So that's the feeling. Like if this person is experiencing joy, they're taking up all the joy in the world and there's no joy left for me. Like I'm not a person that ever feels, I don't want to say that ever feels jealous. Okay, let me be very, very, very real with you. So I'm not a jealous person. Like jealousy is not something that I feel and I experience because I go after my goals. I go after my desires. Like I am just someone who impulsively acts on my desires and goals and dreams and all the things. So it doesn't create a lot of room for me to feel jealous of the next person. However, there is one person, and I'm going to share this with you guys because, you know, I keep it real with you. So there is one person that if I was a jealous person, I would be jealous of. And that is Janelle Monáe. And the reason as to why is because my very first dance studio, I was 19, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. I opened a dance studio. Oh my God, this is like, so like, it feels like another life, but it was called Backstage for Performing Arts or something like that, whatever, it doesn't even matter. But Janelle Monáe and I had the same choreographer at the time because I used to do music, and she had auditions at my studio. And it was a huge aha moment for me. So if you don't know who Janelle Monáe is, so she's an amazing singer-songwriter, now actress and model. She had like a CoverGirl endorsement. She's been in a couple of movies, amazing music. My favorite song of hers is Yoga. Ooh, go listen to it. Such a good song. It is like, if I need to like hype myself up and like twerk in the mirror, that's one of my go-to songs. So, cause she says, let your booty do that yoga. Oh my God, go listen to it and DM me or or screenshot this and post it on your story on Instagram telling me that you listened to this song. So anyway, I love Janelle Monáe. Like I said, I'm not a jealous person, but if there was anyone I was going to be jealous of, it would be her. And this is why. It's because we basically were moving in very similar circles in Atlanta, and she's this like huge superstar now, and I'm not. I mean, I'm a star in my own way, but like I don't have a CoverGirl endorsement. I haven't, performed for like the VMAs or the Grammys and stuff like that. So it's the one person in my life that I'm just like, damn, like she got there before I did. And obviously my life took a completely different path, but usually jealousy stems from our desires being unfulfilled and us feeling like that person has something that we may not have. And every jealousy it's going to be different for every person. But my understanding of why I would be jealous of someone like Janelle Monáe is because we were given the same cards, but from my perspective, maybe she played her hand a little better than I did because now she's this like superstar and I'm not, So anyone else, I mean, like if someone was dealt a completely different hand, you have a different background, you have different parents, you had different schooling, to me, I don't really compare, but specifically with her, we were operating in very similar circles. We had the same choreographer. We had some of like similar connections and similar, like we grew up, I don't want to say grew up because I didn't grow up in Atlanta, but in that time period, we were in the same place. So it's like if someone, like think about baking a cake, and I'm not a baker. So this is like the worst example for me, but think about baking a cake. If someone had the same exact ingredients as you and their cake came out better, there would definitely be some jealousy and comparison. But if someone had different ingredients than you, like let's just say they bought better flour, they bought better icing, then it's natural that, okay, their cake may come out better because they have different ingredients. But specifically with her, I felt we had the same ingredients, but her cake came out better. And so this is just me being very vulnerable with you all because, I really sat with this concept of joy versus comparison. And she is the only person in my life that I've ever felt that way about. Other than that, I'm like, I'm doing my thing. I'm owning my businesses. I'm traveling the world. Like I'm happy. I'm thriving. I'm going after everything that I truly desire. So naturally, I'm not a jealous person because I go after the damn thing. But that is one person that I'm just like, damn. She had the same cake ingredients, but her freaking cake, don't get me wrong, my cake is the bomb, but like her cake, whoo, another level. So anyway, it's important for us to like really be honest with ourselves. And I think part of inner healing and a huge part of shadow work is just being completely raw and honest with yourself. And when we understand, okay, if I do feel jealousy with this person, why? Why do I feel jealousy? Why do I feel comparison? And really diving deep into that, again, will allow ourselves to get to know ourselves on a deeper level so we can make the choice. Because, there's a lot of things that can come out of that data and we can make the choice to go after the thing. So if you're like, oh, I'm jealous because this person lives in Florida and I live somewhere where it's cold, you can move. Like I have people that say to me like, oh, I'm jealous you live in Florida. I moved to Florida. I wasn't born in Florida. Like I moved to Florida. I said, I want to live by the beach. I moved to the beach. So being really honest with yourself about the things that you tend to compare yourself to other people about and you tend to feel jealousy about, so you can go after the thing. And I mean, I think for me, just like as I do the actual work myself, when I said if I was going to be jealous of anyone, it would be Janelle Monáe, because I was pursuing music at the time. But now, my life has taken me in a completely different path, and I am so madly in love with my life and what I've created and everything that I'm doing. So there is no jealousy now, and I still rock out to her song Yoga, go listen to it. But just having that data. So one of the things I had to sit with recently is my love for music. Did I give up on music too soon? Am I not doing music because of pain? And I just actually started getting back into the studio, which is super exciting. So it's like we have the option to go after our goals, desires, and dreams. And if we are feeling jealousy around someone else going after their goals, desires, and dreams, and we feel jealousy, that energy should be directed towards your goals, your desires, and your dreams, period. Like, don't look at me getting on my soapbox. Let me get on my soapbox just for 2 minutes. So don't get mad at someone else for going after their goals, desires, and dreams and feel some type of way and feel jealousy and feel comparison. It, like, that energy that you're directing towards jealousy and comparison, put it towards your goals, desires, and your dreams, period. Okay, I'm off the soapbox. It wasn't a whole 2 minutes. But what I want to say about this is when someone shares joy with you, like, let's say you have something great happen and it's worthy of celebrating, which I believe in celebrating all the wins, the micro, the mini wins, the macro and micro wins. And when someone shares your joy, you feel it. When someone is jealous or they're comparing their situation to yours, you feel it. And it's not just me, because I do sound therapy. I mean, I think I am a little hypersensitive to people's feelings and emotions because I work with energy so much. However, I believe that we are all intuitive and we all feel it, but there's so many people that are masking their intuition with different substances. However, we know when we have those ambivalent friends and we have those people in our lives that are not actually sharing in our joy, we know it. We feel it. We feel it in our freaking bones, but then they haven't actually done anything wrong. So then we question ourselves, like, am I tripping? Like, something doesn't feel right here, but they haven't actually done anything for me to feel that way. So maybe I'm just tripping. Let me just tell you, trust your intuition. Trust your intuition. So when you have that feeling, it's usually because of this concept of near enemy. So I want to read something from Atlas of the Heart. And it's actually in Brene Brown's book, but it's a quote from Jack Kornfield, who talks a lot about this near enemy concept. So on love, he writes, the near enemy of love is attachment. Attachment masquerades as love. It says, I will love this person because I need something from them, or I'll love you if you'll love me back. I'll love you, but only if you will be the way I want. This isn't the fullness of love. Instead, this is attachment. There is a clinging and a fear. True love allows, honors, and appreciates. Attachment grasps, demands, needs, and aims to possess. Whew, just let that sink in. Like, literally, that gave me chills, because I know that in a lot of relationships, I felt, I'll love you. I'll love you if you be this way. Because I've always, like, I feel like dated people that I tried to, like, morph and shift into what I want them to be, which I've learned my lesson. I've learned that leads to resentment. I resent them for not shifting to, in my head, the best version of themselves. Like, I'm trying to help you. It always came from a good place from me, because I'm trying to help you step into your power, but I was really trying to change them and control them, which the near enemy of connection is control. So we're going to get to that in a second. But rather than rather than me allowing them to go on their own journey, on their own pace, I thought I was helping them, and I resented them because they didn't shift or grow or transform in the amount of time I expected them to. And then they resented me because they thought I was trying to change them. And so that is why this concept is so powerful. And I recognize it in myself when I am exuding one of these near enemies, and then I also recognize it when I feel it from other people. And so I really sat with this concept, and I am glad that I have awareness around it, because I think this is going to allow me to show up better in my relationships. And I think that other people just really sitting with this and taking accountability for, how this is showing up for them, and it's going to allow us to cultivate those deeper connections. And so one of the things that Brene Brown says is that the near enemy of connection is control. And I think about how many times we've tried to control situations. So I am a fixer. I like to try to solve problems because I want to see everyone thriving and I want to see everyone happy and abundant. Obviously, I have this podcast, but I never really paid attention to how much that has shown up as control in a lot of my connections. And even all of the inner work that I've done intimacy coaching, I've done therapy, I've done sound healing and tapping and studying emotional intelligence and like all of these things to communicate better, because I thought that me communicating better would produce a better outcome, which the shadow side of that is me trying to control the narrative by communicating better. And so I had to really sit with this and be like, damn, that is true, because I found that if people didn't respond or react the way that I expected them to, I would be like, but I communicated myself so well, but I expressed myself so well. Like I did all the things that they say to do in therapy and intimacy coaching and this and that. But just because we are communicating well, it doesn't control the outcome. So it's like, show up the best way you can, but detach from the outcome. Because when we have an attachment to the outcome, and we feel some type of way when the outcome isn't exactly what we want it to be, that is a form of control. And so communicate well. Communicate from a place of emotional intelligence. Communicate from your heart. And also know that even if you communicate from your heart, you still cannot control the outcome. So allowing the outcome to organically form how it's meant to is what will create space for genuine connection. I literally just got chills. And so Brene Brown doesn't say all of that. So this is my understanding of how this is showing up in my life. And I was like, I have to talk about this, because this is like a huge light bulb moment for me of how I've tried to control so many situations. And I can see now why, because I was so baffled, like, I'm helping these people. How can they not like appreciate me? And I feel comfortable sharing this because I know that there's so many people that feel exactly the same way. And so I'm helping this person. I've said it, and I'm just being real with you all. I've upgraded this person, or whatever the case may be. How could they not appreciate me? But I never saw it from a perspective of, they probably thought I was trying to control them. And this is what Jack Kornfield is saying, that it isn't fullness of love, because it's like, I'll love you if you be the way I want you to be. And so that isn't love, that isn't connection, that is control. And so this was such a powerful realization for me. And it's something that I feel like is very sneaky because it's stored in our subconscious. I don't think we realize that we actually do this. And so Brene Brown has a lot of examples of near enemies. But for me, the biggest one was the near enemy of connection is control. And so I want to be a good communicator, but I want to make sure that my reason for being a good communicator is because I want to show up the best version of myself, and not because I'm trying to control the narrative because I'm a good communicator. And so that is it's a slight nuance, but it's a very different energy. And so that was a huge realization for me, and making sure that I'm not attached to the outcome, because I had a situation recently where I thought I communicated very well and the person still flipped out. I even talked to my therapist about this, and she's like, okay, you want to make sure that you have compassion and integrity. And, she took me down a list of ways to communicate at the best possible, in the best possible way. And the person still flipped out. And I was so baffled, because I'm like, but I did all the things. I communicated compassionately, with integrity, with appreciation, and they still flipped out. And so my reaction to them flipping out was because I was trying to control the narrative. But sometimes, no matter how well we communicate, some people just aren't going to respond in the way that we feel they should, or the way we would like them to. So releasing attachment to the outcome and just knowing I showed up my best, and that is all that I can do. And it's a slight shift. It's a slight nuance, but it makes a world of difference. So really just allowing people the space to be them, and us not trying to control the narrative and shape how things turn out, taking responsibility for us and how we show up, and allowing them to feel how they're going to feel, allowing them to process in the way that they process. And it's such a powerful thing, allowing people to be, because I think that I have been controlled so much by society, oh, you're too much, you need to be more relatable and smile so people feel like you're more accessible, and society has tried to control me so much. I think that there's so much programming just ingrained in me that I didn't realize I was trying to control others to get them to be how I wanted them to be. Because essentially, I don't know, is that what we all do? Are we all out here just trying to get people to act the way we want them to, so it fits in our lives perfectly? And it may be, but I don't think it's coming from a malicious place, because I always saw it as I'm trying to help people step into the highest version of themselves. But the whole concept of fixing someone is still a form of judgment and control, because we think they need fixing. So that is our perception of where they are in their journey, and that's not for me to do. Even me having a meditation studio and being a healer, it is not my responsibility to fix anyone. And I have no desire to now, because I have awareness around this. I have to respect people's journey, where they are, and the rate that they are choosing to heal. And when they're ready for some sound healing, I am providing the tools, but it is up to them to heal themselves. It is up to them to transform their own stuff into wisdom. It is up to them to choose to be the highest version of themselves, and what that even looks like for them, because my perspective of what the highest version of someone is could be completely different than their own perspective of what their highest version is. And I have to respect them, because it's their life. And so this whole concept of near enemy is huge. And I really strongly encourage everyone to really sit with this and ask yourself, where am I a near enemy? Where am I pitying someone rather than having compassion and empathy? And Brene Brown goes into empathy misses. Is actually something that I've included in my sound healing certification, because it's something that's really important for people to understand, especially if you're holding space professionally for people. It's really, really, really important for you to understand the difference between empathy and compassion, and like those empathy misses. You think you're being empathetic, but you're actually not, and you're causing a disconnect. And that's, part of that near enemy concept. And I think this helps me understand ambivalence so much deeper. And I just spoke to a friend today about ambivalent friendships and how a lot of my ambivalent friends are falling away because I'm so committed to nurturing connections right now. If it doesn't feel nurturing, like I don't want it. I'm so busy right now. I have so much on my plate. I do not have space or capacity for ambivalent friends. So if I feel like there's something that doesn't feel right, like I'm excited because I'm doing this in my studio and I just launched this certification and I'm traveling and life is amazing and all these things, and I feel this weird energy from someone, I don't have time for it right now. Like maybe when things slow down, things are not going to slow down for me, let's be real, but like so I just don't have time for it. Like that's it, #unapologetic. I don't have time for it. So this has helped me understand that maybe there is comparison, maybe there is jealousy. And I used to not like to say that because it's so taboo to be like, oh, this person is jealous of me. Like it felt like, oh, if I say that, that just feels like people are going to think I'm, conceited or cocky or something like that. But it's like, the reality is like we live in a world of social media where we're constantly comparing ourselves to people's lives and relationships and businesses on social media. But it's like we have to start the dialogue so we have awareness around how it's actually interfering with the connection that we are craving. And so being able to stand up and be like, you know what? I can understand how this has created awkward energy between a friend and I, or a colleague and I, or even a partner, like even a partner. So the control thing when it comes to partnerships, oh, look at how control is showing up in your romantic relationship. Really look at it and take accountability for your part, have awareness around the other person's part. It will be a game changer for you because, again, the near enemy of connection is control. So if there is an attempt to control the other person, it is actually hindering the connection that you are craving. Whew, you guys, I am worked up. So this is such a powerful concept. So I think fragmentation, if you haven't listened to fragmentation, like that was a huge one. This is another huge one. So I feel like if you really sit with the concept of fragmentation and start to understand your parts and really sit with this concept of near enemy and understand how some of your actions can be a near enemy and identify how other people in your life that it doesn't feel right, like something's not right, but I can't put my finger on it, and you can actually identify it in your connections. These concepts are a game changer. And so what Brene Brown says is that we have to learn to walk alongside. And I think I'm going to do another podcast episode on that because I'm still understanding how to walk alongside people. And I think that it's really, really easy for me to do in business, in my meditation studio with my clients. Like I can walk alongside you. Obviously I have this podcast, so I'm not here like, let me tell you how to live your life. I'm like, hey, I'm in the thick of it with you. Like, let's talk about it because I am right there with you trying to figure this shit out. So, and obviously, I've done a lot of work. So there's some people that may just be getting started on their journey. And obviously I have a lot of wisdom to share, but it's definitely not like, oh, poor you going through your dark night of the soul. Poor you. No, I have gone through the dark night of the soul and it kicked my ass and I'm still, recovering from it. So it's like, I am walking alongside. And I think when it comes to clients, when it comes to my podcast listeners, like it's really easy for me to walk alongside. But I will be honest, when you have people in your like family, and you have like friends that you've been friends with for a really long time, it is a little more challenging because there's a lot more history and there's a lot more like we get used to people in a way. Oh, there was a quote I used to love that said like, don't treat me as I am and not as I was, something like that. So when you've known people for a long time, or like even in your marriage, like really identifying like how control is showing up in your marriage, but sometimes you're so set in your ways and you guys are in your routines that it's harder to shift out. So when you meet someone new that's just meeting you as you are today, it's a lot easier to be aware of these things. But when it comes to old friends, when it comes to family, when it comes to partnership, it's a lot more challenging because you've already made a lot of these mistakes or developed these patterns that are no longer serving you, and shifting out of them tends to be a little bit harder than starting fresh with someone that's just meeting you. So I will say it is very easy for me to walk alongside clients, podcast listeners, people that I'm meeting now and developing connection with now because I have so much awareness. But when it comes to family, it's hard. When it comes to friends that I've known for a long time, like the friend that I just mentioned this concept to and the whole ambivalent thing, like we've been friends, oh my goodness, 20 years? I mean, I don't know if it's 20 years, but that's just the number that came to my brain. But it's something like 15 or 17 years, something like that. So somewhere between 15 and 17. So pick a number in between there. And with stuff like that, like with someone like that that's known you for so long and they have an idea of who you are in their head and you know who you've been to them, it gets a little more complicated. And I'd imagine, I'm not married, but I'd imagine, you know, in a marriage, like you've been married for a while, you have your routines, you have your patterns, shifting out of that, I think would be challenging. So I really invite you to sit with this. If you haven't checked out Brene Brown's special, if you're a reader, just go ahead and read the book. The book is actually gorgeous. I'm definitely an audiobook person, but I'm so grateful that I purchased the book because it's very visual. It's a lot of pictures and she has like big words that look like, you know, social media graphics. It's very engaging, which a lot of times books aren't. So I definitely recommend, if you like books, purchase the book. And if you're not a reader, if you are like, if I purchase this book, I'll probably never finish it, definitely watch the HBO special. Just go ahead, get you some snacks and binge it because it's that good. It is definitely binge worthy. And sit with it. Get your journal and sit with it because these concepts will change your life. They will change your relationships in your life. And then as a result, it will change your life. So I just want to say thank you for listening to me be vulnerable and, you know, I just admitted to the world that, you know, if I was a jealous person, I'd be jealous of Janelle Monáe. I mean, she's amazing. She is amazing. She's so creative, so strong. You know, when she was doing the audition at my studio, she was signed to Outkast's label, and she was like a female version of Andre 3000, and they were trying to make her like sexy, and she's just like, this is not me. Like, she's very eclectic, and like she really stood her ground in that and chose to go in the path that she felt resonated with her. So there's something about her that inspires me. And so that's what I wind up doing, is shifting. Like when I had my studio, like in my 20s, so I opened the studio at 19, so I probably was like 20, whatever. Anyway, however old I was, it was a long time ago. At that time, I just was like, I'm sitting here running this studio, but I want to be auditioning dancers because I want to be singing and I want to be signed to Outkast's label, not specifically them, but I want to be signed to a label. And so in that moment, that's when, you know, I felt jealousy. But as I got older and my life took a different path, she's someone now that deeply inspires me, not just because I love her music, because I do love her music. Go listen to Yoga. But it's just because of her raw creativity. And even when the world was telling her, no, that's not okay, you have to be this way, she stood her sacred ground. She stood her sacred ground, and that is one of my episodes. Go check it out, Standing Your Sacred Ground. She stood her sacred ground, and she is grounded in who she is, and she is grounded in how she wants to be, and she's not allowing anyone to cause her to shift who she is. And that is worthy of inspiring people. And so that's why she inspires me. I mean, obviously she's beautiful, creative, and like all the things, but like really just being who she truly is. Because if you've been listening to my journey, the world has told me my whole entire life that I'm too much, you know, and I just ordered some sequins. I just ordered like more sequins outfits. Like my wardrobe is literally all white and sequins. And like, I literally want to either be in all white or I want to be in sequins. And I'm talking like full sequins outfits. But that's what makes me happy. I want to be in either all white or sequins. And like, I don't care what anyone says anymore. Like, and I'm the person, there's so many memes out there that, and now I'm just blabbing, you guys, just bear with me. Let me get this last thought out. There's so many memes out there that says like, you know, you tell your friend like dress casual and she shows up in like a gown. Like, I am that friend, like, oh, just casual, and I show up in full sequence outfits. Like, that's me. But let me be me. Let me be me. And like, that is it. All right. Thank you for listening to this concept that I think is so powerful, and then listening to me ramble. Oh my goodness. I would absolutely love to hear your feedback. How did this land with you? What do you think? What near enemy do you feel is playing out in your life or your connections or your relationships? Like, let's start this dialogue, because I think that this is something really powerful for us to understand about us and the people in our lives. Because when we choose to show up and make these shifts, we create a ripple. We create a ripple, and it does impact everyone around us. And we create a ripple without trying to control that ripple. And that is what's important. Not trying to control the ripple, just you choosing to be the best version of yourself and show up the best version of yourself. It's organically going to impact the people in your life, your life, without you having to force them to also change. And so that is the nuance that I had to figure out for myself. And I thought, if I work on this, it's going to improve everyone else. But I was trying to force everyone else to grow with me, when I really just needed to focus my energy on me and show up as I am, and as I've turned in, like the person I've turned into, and it will organically cause a ripple. And yeah, it's something really, really powerful for us to sit with. So if you know someone that needs to hear this episode and they don't mind my rambling, definitely share this episode with them, and let's continue to choose to be the best version of ourselves and organically create a ripple of love, connection, nurturing, support, celebration. Like, that's part of it. The celebration, like share joy, celebrate the people in your lives, celebrate yourself. It's so important. Celebrate yourself, celebrate the people in your lives. And that is my message. I hope you enjoy this. And until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.